How you doing, folks? I'm Gary and this is A Kilted Drummer. How you doing, folks? Welcome back to The Kilted Drummer. If it's the first time you've popped onto the channel, after you've watched this video and you like what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button, give us a wee thumbs up, and if you want to keep up to date as new videos are added, please hit the bell icon. Okay, new series starting today, and this one is a little bit of a delve away from where I would normally head with my whiskies. And what we're going to do is, for the next few weeks, I'm going to have a little look at some blended whiskies. Normally, as I said, you've seen my videos and I've been looking at single malt Scotch, but blended whiskies, for those of you that don't know, could either be a blend of different malts, or also a blend of malts and grain whiskies. So you'll get blended malt and you'll get blended Scotch. Blended Scotch being malt and grain, blended malt obviously just being blended malt. And as I move through the little series, we'll maybe talk a little bit more about the makeup of blends within Scotch whisky. But what we'll do is we'll grab the first one that we're going to have a look at, get it into the glass, and then we'll see if we can have a wee chat. So the first one I've grabbed off the shelf is what we call Antiquary, and it's a 12-year-old blended Scotch. So we'll get that one cracked, and we'll get a wee bit of it into the glass. So as I said, it's a blended Scotch, so that means it is a blend of both malt and grain whiskies. Kind of, I suppose, if we look at it in a very sort of loose sort of scenario, what to be a blended Scotch, it really has to come from different distilleries. That's very loose terms, but yeah, if you imagine these, what they've done is they've taken malt whiskies from various different distilleries, and they've taken some grain whisky from various different distilleries. They've decided what their flavour profile wants to be, and they bring it together to create this dram. Now, when you're making blends, it's not just possibly this distillery, this distillery, this distillery, although it can be. In reality, there could be potentially 50 different whiskies thrown into some of these blends to find the real flavour profile. And if we look back historically, single malts, back in the day, as kids would say, historically, single malts weren't the popular thing. What was popular was to have a blend. So if you had your own whiskey blended and you had it there to give to your your guests, etc., that was seen as more prestigious than having a single malt. Finding that perfect blend, somebody to spend time producing a blend of whiskies for you. I think when you look at it historically and you look back and you read about it, even the likes of royalty, Queen Victoria, etc., used to have their own blends of whiskey. It's almost kind of reversed itself slightly today in that people see the malts being more, or the single malts being more, the sort of prestigious things, and blends somehow, not religiously or not sort of strictly speaking, have found themselves maybe moving down to the bottom shelf in your liquor stores and in your specialist spirit shops. You will still find some absolute quality blends out there. Independent bottlers, some of them specifically make really good blends. But as I said, there's almost a reverse nowadays in the public opinion of sort of single malts to blends. And it's probably less popular. But as I said, over the next few weeks, we'll have a wee chat about this and try some of these blends and see how that works out. So we've got this Antiquary in the glass. Now, Antiquary is more malt than it is grain. You know, the ratio of it is higher on the malt side of it than it is on the grain side. And there is a slight peatiness about this dram. So we'll have a wee sniff at it and see how it is. It's quite light. Honey. There's almost a fresh sort of, almost that Speyside orchard fruitness about it for me. An oakiness. And I think some barley coming through in there. As I said, there's the percentages were heavily leaning towards the malted barley. Not unpleasant. 12-year-old. The honey really, for me, is coming through in the taste there. Quite light feeling, quite a light mouthfeel. Again, quite fruity, I think. Maybe a little bit of zest in there. Maybe a sort of lemony. Yeah, I'm kind of getting that sort of, in the buckle of the mouth, there's a sort of, yeah, zestiness. Decent finish to it. I'm still getting it there. I mean, even a sort of sweet caramel towards the finish. It's not bad. Bit of earthiness about it. Probably coming through from the peaty side of things. For a blend, that's really quite pleasant. I shouldn't sound surprised with that. It's actually one of the first blends I ever drank, about sort of, I don't know, 20 years ago or so. Yeah, quite like that. Nothing really unpleasant about that at all. You might notice, I don't know if you notice, I'm using a tomato glass there. If you have a look into the Antiquary, you'll find that there's a wee bit of a connection there with the tomato distillery. But for a first blend in this little series, having a little look in there, the Antiquary is 12-year-old is really quite nice. I'm quite enjoying that. From memory, and I would need to again have a look at this later on. If I can remember, I think there's a non-age statement version Antiquities, possibly in a red label, and I think there's a 21-year-old version as well. And there is possibly recently there was some sort of wine maturation Antiquary release, possibly maybe even something like a Bordeaux cask maturation. I can't quite remember, but yeah, that's not a bad dram. 25 to 30 pounds for a 12-year-old whiskey, nicely blended. You probably couldn't go wrong with giving that a wee try, guys. Yeah, I'd recommend that. Antiquary 12-year-old. Slange.